Hello and welcome to Newsbreak at 7. I'm Veera Raghav. Our top focus this evening, all set in New Delhi for the G20 leaders meet, and all eyes will be on the outcome, both symbolic and substantive, from that leaders meet. One big focus point is a possible global framework on cryptocurrency. Of course, digital public infrastructure, fintech and financial inclusion are considered important legacy aspects of India's G20 presidentship, but the cryptocurrency conversation is being keenly watched. NDTV's Sunil Prabhu decrypts the crypto conversation for us.
New Delhi seems all set to give a go-ahead at the G20 summit for a global regulatory framework and a template to deal with crypto assets. Informed sources say world leaders are expected to sign off as a consensus has emerged on how the world should approach dealing with crypto assets. Responsible global governance of fintech and artificial intelligence has been high on India's G20 agenda. New Delhi took the lead in bringing out a consensus based on papers presented by the IMF and the Financial Stability Board. Sources say the expected framework will provide guidance to deal with risk, both financial and regulatory, related to digital currencies. India's approach is based on the fact that in the case of digital assets, they are borderless, no regulation can work in isolation, and a coordinated approach is required. Something Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been emphasizing.
समय के साथ अब हमारे सामने ऐसे विषय भी जुड़ते जा रहे हैं जिनके बारे में 10-15 साल पहले कोई सोच भी नहीं सकता था। अब जैसे क्रिप्टो करेंसी से जुड़ी चुनौती है, इस मामले में ज्यादा से ज्यादा इंटीग्रेटेड अप्रोच की जरूरत है। मैं समझता हूं इसके लिए एक ग्लोबल फ्रेमवर्क बनाया जाना चाहिए जिसमें सभी स्टेक होल्डर्स का ध्यान रखना चाहिए। आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस को लेकर भी इसी प्रकार की अप्रोच की जरूरत है।
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, who has been working with other finance ministers, had recently agreed for a global approach to deal with new fintech companies.
Crypto threat as well as an opportunity. But crypto is also an example that I use later to say how unless global cooperation. So building a responsible financial ecosystem is important. It has to be therefore, going back to the title, it has to be therefore inclusive, it has to be resilient, and it has to be sustainable. India's presidency has put on table in the G20 issues related to regulating or understanding that there should be a framework for handling issues related to crypto assets.
Consensus is also emerging on greater leverage of capital for multilateral development banks. India has been keen on a declaration incorporating all points of synergy.
Our shared purpose, shared planet, shared prosperity, and shared future.
Despite Russia and China having issues with food and energy issues and dealing with global debt. The final outcome of the agreed text or declaration will be left to world leaders who will work on the emerging consensus to ensure that they can send a message across to the world on their approach towards new age technologies and companies. With camera person Pooja Arya, Sunil Prabhu, NDTV.
So what does this mean in the road ahead for crypto? Joining us now is Vishwanath Nair, banking editor of our sister channel BQ Prime. Vishy, could you break this down for those of us who are not so clued in or following that crypto conversation? When we talk of a global template for regulating cryptos, what would be the key elements of it? Why is this essential globally and specifically important to India?
So, Veera, as we know that crypto in the form that it exists today is neither cash nor is it technically a security. It's at this point in time a trust-based mechanism that exists between multiple people. And these people can be in various parts of the world at the same time transacting in these cryptocurrencies. Now, a global network of regulation is essential because that's the only way that if money leaves India and goes to, say, the US or Europe or any other country in any part of the world, then regulations will be able to track it better and then adequately take any action that might be necessary in the jurisdiction that this money's gone into. Now, this is all assuming that some of these transactions may not be strictly legal in any manner. We don't know if all transactions are legal or illegal at this point in time, because there's no clear regulation that exists in any part of the world at this stage. The US has made some sort of strides in trying to come up with a set of guidelines. India is also sort of bringing up this issue during the G20 meetings. So we have to see if there's a global consensus on how to treat cryptocurrencies in every part of the world.
How does the RBI's thinking factor into all this?
So, the RBI is very, very clear. They really do not like crypto. The RBI governor has said on more than one occasion that there is no real basis for cryptocurrencies to exist. He has likened the sort of interest in cryptocurrencies, the popularities of cryptocurrencies, to the same thing as the tulip mania, which happened a couple of centuries ago. And the idea is here, or the fear that the RBI governor and the RBI in general have, is that people will be sort of left stranded when things go bad, because there is no real central governing regulator for cryptocurrencies, nor do the people who believe in cryptos believe in any kind of regulation itself. So that is what the Reserve Bank of India's view is. It believes that cryptocurrency should just be banned. The government is slightly more measured in this manner because in India it is quite popular amongst users. So they are waiting for a sort of regulatory framework to come up.
Well, thanks so much, Vishwanath Nair, their banking editor of BQ Prime. But also joining us this evening, Dilip Chenoy, chairman of Bharat Web3 Association, and Manhar Garegrath from the Indian Liminal Custody Solutions. Thank you too for joining us. Obviously, we're dominated by new age jargons like cryptocurrency, DPI, Fintech, financial inclusion, all that conversation around the G20 presidentship of India. My first question to you, Dilip, again, break down for us the importance of a global framework and what does that mean for crypto trade itself?
So thank you. And, like Vishwanath said, that the crypto assets are pretty, mobile. They can go across borders. There is a lot of anonymity about them. So the globe and, all the banking community and the central bankers, etc., and the Prime Minister, and you heard the Prime Minister speak earlier on your show, and Finance Minister have said that there's a need for a global regulation to actually address the challenges of crypto. There are three broad areas that we're looking at global impact. The first is in the whole financial stability, because cryptos are normally bought and sold in dollars, there are some emerging and developing economies where don't have convertible currencies. If their residents start investing in this asset, then will it lead to a dollarization of the economy? The second is that relating to stability is that if there's too much, crypto, if it's used as a currency, right? And we in BW are not talking about that. But if it is, then how does it impact money supply? The second issue is really how do you protect consumers? And the major issue which a lot of countries have taken is, like it was said, that it is a form in which there's money laundering possible, there's terrorist finance possible, and the FATF in different countries are looking at this. How do you peg suspicious targets, suspicious transactions, how do you report, and how do you address them? So financial stability, dollarization, and customer protection, and terrorist finance.
Okay, that's important, those points that you've made there. But from an India point of view, Manhar, what does this mean? And I also want to take the conversation beyond just crypto, because much of the G20 conversation as far as India's leadership is concerned is around the DPI, the UPI, Fintech, and financial inclusion.
Yeah, so from an India perspective, we've seen a lot of adoption happening in the country. There are already a lot of businesses who have built. There are, in fact, a couple of unicorns as well in our country, right? So that piece is already there. But from an India perspective, because the fintech, because the developers, because our mobile penetration, our internet penetration is so high, India is at the cusp of this entire software development revolution. And when a technology like Web3 comes in or a cryptocurrency comes in, it becomes extremely important, which is why we've seen the sort of reserved stance, right? Despite the RBI's very sort of voiced opinion on trying to ban crypto, we still have a measured view. And there was this call for a global regulation. Outside of this crypto piece, the UPI, etc. So the biggest piece that emerges from this is that you do not need cryptocurrency for payments, because India has created UPI, India has created so many fantastic payment rails, and this is clearly outlined in the FSB report as well, that they do not want to encourage any country to basically use crypto as a legal tender.
Right. As you say that, Manhar, Dilip, what's next as far as the UPI story is concerned? Obviously, it's got to evolve further from here.
So if you look at the UPI and the announcements that actually came in here, there are 5 different things that the next step that the UPI is looking. One of them is tap and pay. The second one was actually looking at the NFC phones being allowed to use the UPI, and they're developing a product for that. And the third is the UPI Lite and a variation of UPI Lite for NFC enabled phones. So the UPI has actually launched 5 or 6 new actually functions which take the penetration further down into the different levels and types of phones that are there, and also creating a safety feature in them and making it easier for us to use it, because currently you have to actually enter a PIN, you have to do all sorts of other things, and a tap and pay would actually simplify it. They're also linking it to the credit card and the other framework. So greater, and also India is pushing bilateral agreements with different countries, especially where there are a lot of non-resident Indians, to enable them to remit money back, remittances using that product.
Right. That's interesting, all these points. My last, we're completely out of time. Last question to you, Manhar. As somebody who follows crypto very clearly, when you talk of this global regulatory framework, how hopeful are you, and what would be that 1 or 2 indications that you would look for, concrete sort of facts that you would look for?
So the paper itself is a very big encouraging factor. It's a huge milestone because we've had a lot of small regulations mushrooming all over the country. The Payment Services Act in Singapore has licensed exchanges. India has a lot of regulations around taxation. We've also had, so it's all been very fragmented. The moment you have a global singular voice on how the countries should basically look at this digital asset and how there should be a coordinated activity, along with a development roadmap. So the FSB is actually given a development roadmap. They've identified all the key bodies who will be responsible as well. This is hugely encouraging. And this essentially gives, takes away the opaqueness from the regulatory aspects of crypto. It tells you that now, rather than having separate, different kinds of regulatory, interventions, you're going to look at a singular voice. It gives businesses a lot of confidence. It gives investors a lot of confidence. It gives developers and founders, startup founders, a lot of confidence. So it's a great milestone achievement.
Right. We are possibly looking at the future of money in this conversation and all these regulations that we are talking about. Thank you too for joining us. We'll keep a close track of developments on that. But